Welcome back to Conversations with Rich. I'm Rich Massabny, and in this third segment here, we have quite a lovely lady who's traveled around the world, it seems. She's written a book. Her name is Ingrid Anders, and she's written a book, Earth to Cat Vespucci. And it tells about travels to Berlin. And what else, Miss Anders? What else?
The book is about a young woman's first time ever leaving the country. And she's quite unprepared, so she has a lot of adventures, not only in a new country, but dealing with a lot of situations she's never dealt with before.
This is a novel based on real life?
Inspired by real-life events.
Yeah?
Yes.
Where are some of the places? I know Berlin is one. Where else did you go?
In my actual travels?
Well, for the book.
Oh, for the book focuses entirely on her life in Berlin.
Okay.
Berlin, Germany.
Why did you just pick Berlin?
There's a lot to tackle, a lot of interesting cultural things to tackle in that city. And if I included other cities that I've also visited, it would have made the novel 1,000 pages long.
You speak Mandarin, right?
Yes.
And German.
Yes.
Anything else?
No, those are the two foreign languages that I speak fluently.
Well, were you in China, to learn the Mandarin?
Yes.
How long were you there?
I lived in Taiwan for 1 year, and then several years in different locations on the mainland China, Beijing and Hangzhou mostly.
I don't know that town.
Hangzhou is a great town near Shanghai, about an hour train ride from Shanghai, and it's a wonderful town of poets. A lot of ancient Chinese poets lived there, and there's a beautiful lake called West Lake, which is famous, has been famous in Chinese culture for thousands of years.
Oh. How'd you like living there?
Oh, living in China is it's exciting. It's always interesting, sometimes very uncomfortable, but never boring.
What were you doing there?
I started teaching English, and then I've gone back to study Chinese and also to work.
Do you think you know something about the culture? Do you think that we eventually can be truly friends with the Chinese, the communist Chinese?
Yes, I think so.
I'm not talking about Taiwan.
Yeah, no, I understand. The more that you spend time in China, you realize that both the Chinese and the Americans are extremely entrepreneurial at heart. And even though we have different systems of government, Chinese and Americans do business very well together. Not politics so much, but business very well.
Were you there during the Tiananmen Square,
No. That was 1989.
Oh, okay. Was that far back?
Yeah.
Time flies.
Yes.
Yeah. But that just bothers me about the, imprisonment of political opponents and that kind of thing. Bothers me, but a lot of countries do that.
Yes, that bothers me as well. As I mentioned, China for me has always been a mixed bag of positive and negative things, but the positive, in my experience, has far outweighed the negative. And while their political system does leave some things to be desired, I think the Chinese people at heart are very warm, extremely welcoming, and culturally amazing hosts.
Really?
They have always welcomed me with open arms and made that one of the best parts of being in China.
Hey, where'd you live? With a family or apartment or what?
Oh, I've lived in an apartment with other Americans. I lived in a very small dorm room for 1 semester with a Chinese student my age. So the two of us in very close quarters. And I got to visit her home, and then other business apartments and hotels.
Now, you're a girl from New Jersey, right?
That's right.
When did all this, may I ask roughly, was it in high school or college that you started this travel thing?
Well, my mother is German,
Okay.
So she first took me to Germany as a very young child. The first time I ever traveled on my own was in college. In 1999, I did my first study abroad in Germany, and I never stopped studying abroad.
You have a master's degree.
That's-
And what's it
yes.
in?
International policy studies.
Okay.
I did some other studies on non-proliferation of weapons of mass destruction and Chinese.
Wow. Is this? Let me put up on the screen here some of that information about you here. Okay, we've got it on the piece here. It's you've got a email there. You got author@ingridanders.com.
Yes.
And a website, ingridanders.com, right?
Yes.
And I never give out the phone number of lovely ladies, you know. I
No,
just had
no.
2 lovely ladies on in a segment, and I didn't give the phone number, you know. But this book, Earth to Cat Vespucci, where can you get this?
You can buy it in any online bookstore.
Okay.
You can buy a hard copy at Politics and Prose bookstore in Washington, D.C., or you can go into any bookstore and they'll order it.
Okay. Now, we'll make a quick little generous offer here. What is that you wanted to say about this, giving a book to somebody?
Yes, I'd like to celebrate our first meeting here with a book giveaway. So anyone that emails me at author@ingridanders.com with your name, Rich Massabny, in the subject line, or Conversations with Rich, will get entered into a drawing for a free signed copy of the book.
Oh, great, great.
But this should be before March 1st.
Okay, we can do that. Let me see here. How long take you to write a book like this? I can't imagine, you know, where you get the time.
It was not easy to find the time. It took 1.5 years to write the first draft, and then it took about 4 years to edit it.
You edited it or had somebody edit it for you?
All of the above. Me, myself, going through it over and over and over again, and then having it critiqued, and then eventually having professional editors get their hands in it and really give it a once-over. Took about 4 years.
We don't want to know, at least on the air, exactly where you work, but what kind of work do you do now?
I do study abroad programs for American college students. I work for a company that sends approximately 1,000 American students on study abroad programs, much like Cat Vespucci, every year.
Do you have positive hopes and all for the world, global happiness and getting together, or is that just something we can't expect? I say that because I interviewed a guy many years ago, Colonel Dupuy. Probably not around anymore, but he wrote a book saying that there will always be 11 hot spots around the world, that you'll never have total peace. What do you think of that? Stuck in my head.
I want to go there. Only 11? Okay, I'll go.
That's what he said, 11. He picked that number. I don't know why. So you'd be happy with 11. Is that what you're saying?
If we're only 11, that would be great.
Well, but what do you feel about the relationship now between communist China and America? Where they're buying our credit
Our
there.
debt,
Our
yes,
debt, I meant.
yes,
They're
yes,
buying our debt so we can continue these wars in Afghanistan and Iraq and where else, you know?
Yes,
What
well,
if they pulled the plug?
we would all have a lot of adjusting to do if they did that. They would as well. But I have 2 degrees in international relations and politics, and the overall conclusion that I've come to is that when you look at governments and you look at politics, there's always a lot of ugliness. You have to look at people, and that's where the hope is.
For example, you said before that the Chinese people are sort of nice. Is that a good word?
Oh, they're wonderful. They're wonderful. The woman I lived with, my roommate, when I studied there, brought me home to her family, and they lived in a very small apartment, a mother and a father and the daughter, and they had 2 children because they had twins. You know, in China, there's a one-child policy. Well, they had gotten around the one-child policy by having twins. So 4 people living in a one-bedroom apartment with a tiny kitchen, a tiny bathroom, and they opened their home to me. They gave me the bedroom. And
So what's left for them?
they slept on mats in the living room. And they asked me what I liked to eat. And I said, oh, I like to eat everything. Whatever you serve me, I will eat. They said, do you like shrimp? And I said, oh, I love shrimp. So the father went out and he bought a bag of living shrimp. He came home and he was holding the bag and the shrimp were all squeaking inside the bag. And then they served me shrimp at every meal.
Oh.
At breakfast, at lunch, at dinner.
They do the shrimp differently?
At breakfast the next day. No, they boiled them and they added some spices. But they catered to me the whole weekend. And this was a relatively poor family, but I'd never felt more welcomed in my life than when I was with them.
Did you ever talk politics? Say, what do you think of America or anything like that?
Not with the parents, but with the daughter.
Okay.
And I found that she didn't know a lot about her own government. They don't have as free information there as we have, you know, in America. And not only that, but the criticism culture, you know, where we have all these shows that will either support the government or criticize the government, and maybe in the end you can hope to reach some bit of truth. They don't have that culture. So she didn't know a lot of the nuances of her government, which made it difficult to really talk politics. She also didn't know about Tiananmen Square.
She didn't?
She didn't.
How old would she have been then? You think?
Oh, small, maybe 5 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You talk to anybody who knew about the Tiananmen Square? Or you didn't dare?
I did. I have talked to a few people, but it just in general, there is not a lot of information about it available. So if young Chinese people have heard about it, it's probably rumors. They've heard rumors, but not they've not been taught it in school. So they don't know a lot of the facts.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me. Tell me about this book now. Here, can we get a shot of this, somebody? I'm going to put it up here. And you tell me about Berlin. I mean, would you want to move there?
Well, I did live there already for 1 year, and
Yeah.
it was an exciting year. If I had to live in Berlin, I would do so very happily.
How do they feel about America?
Well, they were much harder on America in Berlin than they are in China, believe it or not. I was there post 9/11, and I heard a lot of criticisms of American foreign policy. Germans in general are very political and have a lot to say and know a lot of the nuances of the political situation, more so than I did at the time. They gave me a hard time.
Nazi Germany a dead issue now? Nobody ever talks about it?
It is not dead. It is very much alive in terms of what I mean is the young Germans feeling like they still have to make up for it. They still have that.
They feel guilty about
They feel
all
guilty.
that, huh?
Yes, yes.
That's good.
Yeah, it's still the guilt is very much alive, and the feeling that they will never let it happen again is very much alive.
Oh, that's good to know.
It's great to know.
Do they know who Hitler was?
They all know who Hitler.
Go ahead.
Okay, Ingrid, with these travels, we've been in Germany and all the surrounding countries and all, and Japan. Excuse me, been to Japan? No.
Just for one night.
Oh, okay, but China and all. What has that done for your perspective? I mean, as opposed to somebody who hasn't traveled anywhere, maybe.
Yes, well, it's made a big impact on my perspective, certainly, and it's made it difficult to hold one view and stick to it. Having traveled and talked to so many different types of people, you realize that there's new information all the time that you didn't realize. And so your view becomes very, very wide, and you constantly hold the door open for it to change. But perhaps the most important thing is that you realize when you're talking about a country, within that country is so many different elements. There's the government, there's the people, there's business, there's civil society, there's just people. So you can't look at a country as one element. You have to look at the different elements within the country.
Well, I mean, could I ask you a direct question again about Afghanistan and Iraq? I mean, does
Sure.
this make sense to you with your experience?
Our involvement in the conflicts there
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. That is a tough question, and I guess no.
Well,
But
I realize it's tough because our diplomats can't solve it. You know what I mean? And they're doing
Right.
it all day long. They're working on those things. But
we won't solve it overnight. I'll say that. I think both of these conflicts are going to be long-term projects.
well, I think for a young lady like you, with all your experience and your master's degrees and in this book here, can we take a shot of this book again? This is Ingrid Anders right here, Earth to Cat Vespucci. And you can get this everywhere. Now, she says if you send in to email to author@ingridanders.com, and you're lucky, she might pick you as a winner and send you a book. Is that right?
That's right.
I'm glad to meet you because you're sharp as a tack.